Hey! Glad we finally
Okay,
got to
you can hear me,
connect.
right?
Yes.
Yay! How are you?
Good, good. Can you hear me?
Good,
Okay.
awesome. I love your artwork. Oh my gosh, that's beautiful. Did you paint
Thank
those?
you. No, the big one behind me I bought at a Pride event a while ago, but the one surrounding it my dad did actually.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yep.
I didn't know you were LGBT, I'm guessing.
Yep, absolutely. I can
Oh.
if I have to put a label on it, I hate putting labels on sexuality, but if I have to, I would be considered pansexual, I suppose, because it's more about personality. I'm attracted to both sexes. Yep.
Okay, gotcha. Gotcha,
Yeah.
gotcha. Okay. I don't care either way, but I identify as openly gay. Like, I mean, I tried both, but not a fan.
Right.
Not a fan of the other one. Although there have been some women that I would definitely consider giving it a third go around for, right? But I
Right, right.
identify as bi, and I'm currently kind of in a relationship with a male. So yeah. So
Okay, awesome. Awesome.
I had to wear my red brace for Medicare for All hat. So we have to give them a shout out when we do our video, by the way, or whenever we're ready
Oh,
to start.
yes.
So.
It's already recording, but I can edit
Uh-huh.
out whatever, or we can start whenever,
Yeah.
wherever you
Please
would
feel
like it
free,
to
by the
be.
way, to ask. Feel free to ask like random questions too. Like I like kind of fun questions every now and then, like ones that are like, because we when we run for office, it's like it's always nice to have just a fun question once in a while. That's like, oh, let me tell you a little bit more about me. So if something pops in your head that you want to ask about, please feel free to ask that too. Okay.
Okay, that's good to know. Thank you.
And
Um,
nothing's off limits, by the way. Nothing is off limits at all for me. So I mean, you can ask openly about anything, and I will do my best to answer as honestly as I can. Okay.
okay. Also good to know. Yeah, I mean, I watched a little bit of your interview with Niall, and I know you guys were discussing pretty heavily that case with human trafficking. So I definitely got the feel from that interview that you will definitely discuss anything, which is good. We need that in America right now, though.
We do, and that's the thing is most politicians they want to be this like polished, perfect person, and I'm sure we'll talk about it in the interview. But like that's not me, and that's not who I want to be, right? Like that's not who I want to be because um, you can put lipstick on a pig, but a pig's still a pig. To quote
Right.
Sarah Palin, right? I mean, you can put lipstick on a pig, but it's still a pig or whatever, And so like for me, I don't want to be a pig. I want to be the person that I am.
Oh, I think we lost
And I
connection.
want people to
There we
genuinely
go.
connect with them because that is who I am, not because that's who I pretend to be, right? That's just my opinion, but
Makes sense. Yeah.
oh, you froze a little. Okay, there we go.
Yeah, we
That's better.
both
You're
we
moving.
did freeze for a little bit, but I think it caught back up there. All right.
Okay,
Well,
no worries. I'm on public Wi-Fi, so I can move closer to the building if I need to. Like, I mean, I'm like right in the front, and I'm near where they keep the router. I kind of narrowed down where they keep the router because this is where I parked when I did my interview with Niall, and that all went through pretty fine. So,
okay.
yeah, I
Perfect.
narrowed down where they keep the router.
All right. Well, here then, I will just jump right into it so we can get started.
Okay, sounds good. All right.
Well, thank you everybody for joining us. I'm so excited to bring to the channel today John Michael Williams. He is actually running against someone whose name you might maybe recognize. I don't know.
Maybe a little
Maybe
bit.
just a little bit. He's running with the aspirations of unseating Kamala Harris in California. Kamala Harris, she has a very, very checkered record in every single office she has held in California. She has a long record
Every
at this point.
single one.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So I am really excited to have this conversation with you and to, bring you to more people. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, John, tell us a little bit about yourself, though, just to start off. Who are you? What's your background?
Who are you? Like, I love that. I love that question. I'm always like, I don't know, who am I? Right? Like,
Right.
I definitely want to thank you first of all for having me. Like, thank you for giving people like me a platform because, as we know, candidates like myself are not going to get a platform on like MSNBC or CNN or even Young Turks until it's too late, so to speak, right? And so
Yeah.
People like you and Niall Elcom and Slow News Day, people like you all are, and Tina Desiree Berg, you guys are all essential to like us being able to get our voice out and be exposed to people that we might not know. So like as much as you might get down on yourself sometimes because your views didn't hit a certain number, please keep doing what you're doing, because for candidates like myself, these interviews are really what make or break us, right? If we don't have you guys doing what you're doing, then we aren't able to get our voices out, and we're basically yelling into an echo chamber. And so thank you for having me, first of all. Your second question, who am I? So my name is actually Brant John Michael Williams. I prefer John Michael or JM. I actually have most people call me JM. It's just fine. And so to tell you like a little bit about my backstory, I grew up in Tulare, California, which is a very poor, impoverished area of California. I grew up in Tulare. I went to high school in Tulare. My whole life, I lived in Tulare until I was about 19 years old. My dad passed away. And we moved to Visalia, which is next door, bigger city, but next door. It's Tulare's kind of like the little brother of Visalia that no one wants to talk to, sort of thing. So
right.
next to Visalia, or next door to Visalia. Yeah, Tulare's weird, and anyone who's from Tulare knows exactly why I'm saying that. It's just a weird place. Like, it's a weird place. Now that I've been out of Tulare, and when I go back there, it's like so weird being there, because I'm like, oh, like this, I lived here that long. Like, it's weird that I lived 19 years there and didn't realize how freaking weird people are there. But anyway, I went to San Antonio, Texas when I was 23 years old. I moved to sorry, I'm getting my little timeline confused here. I think it was 24 when I moved. I moved to San Antonio, 2013, right? So I moved to San Antonio. I was there for 5 years. I worked for various different companies. I worked for JP Morgan Chase, for USAA, for Nationwide. While in San Antonio, I completed my AA in liberal arts. So I got an AA in liberal arts.
Wow,
and then I kind of moved back to California, because in my home county, in Tulare County, a lot of people move away and they don't come back. And I kind of didn't want to be one of those people, because I had learned all of these like great knowledge working for companies. Not that I don't have my bones to pick with each one of them, not so much USAA, but definitely JP Morgan Chase, right? Definitely Chase. But when I decided to come back, it was because of a mix of things. It was family. It was all here. And I hate not and I kind of started going right to work. I went right to work on trying to fix the problems that I see in our area. And so that's a little bit about me. I'm working on my BS in organizational leadership. I run a nonprofit. I also co-founded a group that exposes pedophilia rings, and we're about to start expanding from just exposing pedophilia rings to teaching children about consent and consent, and
oh wow, that's
who can give
awesome.
it, what proper age of consent is, right? Which is
Yeah.
hugely important, because I was thinking about it and I'm like, I don't remember ever learning about consent when I was in sex ed in high school, right? I don't think that was ever really taught to us, as what does consent look like? What does it sound like? Who can give it, legally? And we know kids have sex, right? Children, I mean, teenagers have sex. We know that, but we were never taught what consent is. We were just taught you have to be 18 to have sex. Well, that's not good enough, right?
Right.
And so, the group that we're working on, that I just co-founded, that's going to fall under our nonprofit, is going to work on that sort of thing. And so I have lots of irons in the fire, I guess you could say. And I'm barely getting to that point in my life, and I'll end here, but I'm getting to that point in my life where they're starting to like be like red hot. And I'm like, yes, like, thank you for the, confirmation that the work that I've been doing is finally paying off, sort of thing. Right.
That's amazing. Yeah. And let me first congratulate you for coming back. That's like you said, you touched on it a little bit, but I can certainly confirm that's not something a lot of people do. Most people would make the choice to then just take that education or whatever step forward they received to leave that place. And I live in the second largest city in Iowa, Cedar Rapids, but uh, it's kind of depressing here, honestly. It's very disconnected. People don't talk
Oh,
often, and when they get the chance to leave, they definitely don't come back. So I can identify a little
yes.
bit with what you said there. Yep. And so
Yeah,
the
and it's
non
really sad, because we have what's called a brain drain, and I'm sorry to cut you off, but we have
no,
what's
it's
called a
fine.
brain drain. And so, consequently, as a result of that brain drain, we are the least educated metropolitan area in the country. We have lots of talented students, high school students that graduate high school with. I mean, I graduated myself with a 3.72 or 6.3 or something. I took AP classes. I passed 5 or 6 AP tests. But we have this brain drain because and I was only number 45 out of my 600 class or whatever, right? So I was only number 45. So you imagine like 44 other students that were smarter than me, quote unquote,
Right.
left, and I guarantee you none of them came back, right? I guarantee you they all left and didn't come back. And so consequently, as a result, that caused us to have kind of a brain drain. We're the poorest metropolitan area in the country. If I still believe we're still number one for that, if I'm not mistaken, and we're definitely still
Wow.
number one for the least educated metropolitan area in the country. And we're talking Alabama. We're talking shameful. Like, supposed to do something. You have to be the change in the world, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And you mentioned your nonprofit. So what's the name of that?
Oh, I'm sorry. What was that?
That's okay. It did jump a little bit there, so I wasn't sure if you heard me or not.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you did
Now I
mention
can hear
your
you perfectly. I think it caught up to itself.
awesome, awesome. You mentioned your nonprofit. What's the name of that?
So the name of my nonprofit that I founded and that I run, I'm currently the chief executive officer. It is the Vision for the Valley. It's also known as TV for TV Inc. And I started it in January 2018. So I came back, the timeline for you to give you a little bit of an idea. I moved in January, oh my gosh, so loud. Sorry, this truck is so loud behind me. I came back in January, or left in January 2013, came back in October 2017. Kind of surveyed the landscape a little bit, looked around, and then I got to work. Right, I was like,
Right.
something's got to be done. And so I started our nonprofit in January. So within 2 months, I had gotten paperwork together, started our nonprofit, founded it, found a board, found executive officers. That was, within 3 months, we had the organization founded. Within 6 months, the organization was incorporated. Within, a
Oh, wow.
little bit over a year, it took the IRS a little bit of time to approve our nonprofit application, our 501c3 status, due to no fault of our own, due to the fault of the government shutdown. Unfortunately, we
Ugh.
just got our approval. I know it took them 8 months, and it normally takes like 30 days. So that just gives you an idea of
Oh,
how
dang.
much the government shutdown impacted people. Just so we're clear. But yeah, I ended up getting, we got all, so within 2 years, we were founded, incorporated, given tax exempt status. By the end of this year, we're going to have all of our compliance in line. And our main goal is to bring a University of California, the 10th, and I can explain a little bit more about University of California and California State universities because they're different. But we were founded to bring the next University of California to Tulare County by 2030. We haven't had a university University of California built since the last one was built in 2006. So you figure California has had 45%, I believe it is, in our area, population increase from areas such as LA and San Francisco. Well, we consequently still don't have a school, so we need to have a school there so that
Oh,
we
wow.
can,
Yes.
yeah, so we can compensate for that because that's surely helping with the education gap, but it's not going to correct it entirely. And it doesn't help with the fact that our population has increased so much and we're getting kind of the poop into the stick, right? We're getting kind of the shit into the stick. So
Yeah, and then
we're
if you
trying to do
don't
something
have
about it.
public, or if you don't have a car, and if you don't have adequate public, transportation, then how would you get to a college, even if you could pay for one? Yeah.
Yeah, and we're definitely open to other options. So like, I mean, my ideal goal would be to make it a private university that's completely tuition free. Maybe a very limited small class to start, right? Like only these amounts of people that we can take, and then kind of grow from there as we get endowments and grants and so on. That would be my ideal goal, right? Especially a school. One of our executive officers mentioned the other night, it would be really cool if we taught people how to grow food, because what you have to understand about Tulare County is we are the agricultural capital of the entire country. I'm not like joking or at all. We are the agricultural capital. We grow your food. Whether or not you know it or not is a completely different thing, but we grow your food, or something that goes into your food was grown here. Or there, I should say, because I'm currently not in Tulare County. I'm visiting up north and campaigning, but we grow your food. And so it would make sense that we would teach other people how to grow food, and also that we could research ways to grow food better. We know climate change is a huge thing, a huge problem. The biggest problem, if you ask me, the biggest elephant in the room is climate change, and that means that we should be looking at ways to grow food in a more sustainable manner. That means we'd be looking to incorporate different techniques to lessen environmental impact. There's lots of potential for there to be some really good things that come from this project. And so, but of course, University of California has the name recognition, it has the prestige, it has the funding, it has all of that stuff. And so we're willing to kind of compromise on that. But definitely, I founded the organization with the intent of changing the way that Tulare County works right now, because we're poor, we're uneducated. Lots of people are stuck in an endless cycle of poverty. Lots of people have no way of getting out of that cycle. You just mentioned right now, cars being a problem. In Tulare County,
Yeah.
homelessness is at 11 or 12%. Lots of people don't have a house, and lots of people don't have a car. So how can they even get to work to get a house? You see what I'm saying? Or get into housing. And people seem to think that it's their fault, and it's not. There's a systemic problem there that we are trying to address in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. California is in need of some drastic changes. They've had, liberal politicians there for a long time. It's known as a liberal hub, but it's got the highest working homeless population in the country, and prices, as I'm sure you're well aware of, are skyrocketing and all of that. Really quick before we get more into stuff like that, you mentioned before we started the official part of our discussion that you are LGBT. Did you want to talk a little bit about that and what that journey was like?
Yeah, I can definitely tell you. See, thank you. See, I like questions like that every once in a while.
Yeah.
That like gets us to change gears, and then you get to really kind of know me better, right? And so, yes, I do. I openly identify as gay. I used to identify as pansexual because I played around with the idea, I guess you could say, of like being with a woman. And there have definitely been women in my life that I would say that I have loved or been in love with.
Right.
But I think that for me, my sexuality was bad. I grew up I'm multiracial as well. So I grew up with a white father from Idaho. Like, think of redneck, but not racist. That was my father. And so my father, my mother was a black woman, right? And so I'm Welsh, Swedish, Black, and Portuguese. So like, I joke with my family members that I'm like, oh yeah, I just have like all the biggest slave traders in the world, like, and a slave mixed in my DNA, which is true. Sweden
Right.
was one of the biggest slave traders. The Welsh were obviously part of it with England, and then the Portuguese were the largest by far. And so it's kind of a joke with me and my family. Is like, it's almost like like I mixed the biggest slave traders with the slave, and so my dad, being white, racially blind or insensitive to the fact that his wife and my stepmother's also black, so his current wife, or he's passed on, but his widow, he was not blind to the fact that like their lives were different than his, right? He was not blind to that at all. And I remember at a very young age, I was reading at 3 years old. So I remember at a very young age when I was reading chapter books at like 4 or 5. I remember my dad getting me a set of books, and it was about Black prominent leaders, like Black prominent, like W. Du Bois, Jackie Robinson,
Okay.
Martin Luther King, of course, Malcolm X, Harriet Tubman, Sojourner Truth. There was it was like a set of like 7 books of these Black Americans that had done some, crazy things in our history, that had done wonderful things. The guy that invented peanut butter was on there. I can't remember his name right now. They were all, it was like a book set, right?
Wasn't it? His last name was Carver, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. George Carver? George Carver.
I wanted to say that. I think so.
Washington Carver. Washington Carver.
Yes.
Washington Carver.
Yeah.
That's what it is. I think it's George Washington Carver because he was named after the president. But anyway, I digress. My dad, I remember him telling me at a young age, like, your life is going to be very different than mine is. And I didn't understand what he meant. And I came out to him at probably about 12 years old.
Mm.
And I told him, I don't like girls. My dad said to him, son, you don't understand that you are already going to have to work twice as hard to be half as good. You being gay, I'm okay with it. He was like, basically, I'm fine with that. I can deal with that. But I want you to understand that your life is going to be that much harder as a result of it. And my dad passed away in 2008, so this was before. Well, this was in the middle of Prop 8, actually. If I don't know if anyone's familiar with Prop 8, but Prop 8 was a proposition that California had at one time that banned gay marriages. And so I think my dad probably passed away with the fear that the world was still going to be as ugly as it was then, right? Because we think California is a liberal bastion. Oh gosh, gay marriage, that would pass easy. Well, at the time in 2008, it did not. There were lots of smears. There were lots of lies that were told. There were, there were talk of kids being indoctrinated with homosexual ideals, and it was just, the gay agenda, the scary gay agenda of, marriage and brunch, right? And throw pies in Anita Baker, such a scary agenda.
Right.
But, at that time, my dad, when he died, he passed away with probably the idea still that I was not going to be accepted. And thankfully, 2019 is very different than 2008, right? It's a very different world. And I think that's becoming less and less. It seems that the fight has now moved on to trans people, which is equally not right, right?
Right.
But it's interesting to see how things have shifted. And so that's kind of my story. My parents have always been pretty supportive for the most part. My mother is also dead now too. Well, I should say my mother is functionally dead to me. I disowned her because I don't believe that you should keep negative people in your life just because they gave birth to you. I don't think that's right. I just don't. And so, for me, my biological parents are functionally dead, right? And so they were always supportive, though. I will say that they were always supportive. They were always very much like, if that's what you want for yourself. I know that for my dad, one of his biggest fears was that I would contract HIV. He had an uncle that had passed away, and this was not just a fear that was like a rational fear. He had an uncle who died during the AIDS epidemic during the late 80s, early 90s, that contracted HIV and died of AIDS. So this was ignorance. This was based in his life experience, right? And I think we, as an aside, I think we progressives tend to forget that a lot of the Trump supporters, the Trumpers, right, they base their understanding on life experience, not just what they've been told. And I think when we lump all of them together and say, oh, you're a racist, oh, you're a homophobe, oh, you're this, you're that, we're completely ignoring the fact that they have their own life experiences and that they might have come to those conclusions because of as a result of those things, right? And
absolutely.
So, for my dad, I know that was one of his biggest fears. And thankfully, I've been very fortunate in my life to get, make sure I was sexually responsible using protection, getting tested. For those who need, I'm sure that you can probably link this when you post it, but there's plenty of resources for you if you're a young person, any kind of person, whether you're gay, straight, lesbian, whatever. You should be, taking care of and taking advantage. And most of the time you can find them for free in an area nearby you that will provide that kind of testing to you for free. True. And I am an extreme advocate. So.
And a lot of times, also sexual protection mechanisms like condoms and all that you can get for free at those same places too. We have one in Cedar Rapids, so absolutely. I hope they have one everywhere.
I hope so too, but I'm definitely doing research to find out. So I hope so too, but yeah.
I could see it kind of being almost like a Planned Parenthood scenario where if you don't have a Planned Parenthood near you as a woman, you lose a lot of access to free things, and maybe it's similar to that as well. But hopefully.
I'm actually going to write that down. That's a really good point. I wonder how many places in this country where someone does not have, or like within a reasonable distance, does not have access to, rapid HIV testing and stuff like that. I mean, I know you can go to the hospital and get that stuff done. But I mean, a lot.
But then you're going to get a bill in the mail too,
right?
Right.
Exactly. And that's why I'm wearing. Oh, that's a perfect plug. That's why. I'm
wearing
my red beret.
Red beret for Medicare for all.
Yes. Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Laura Fielding. Thank you all for all the red berets. I don't know who specifically knitted this one for me, but you can see the candidates I'm supporting, right? So we have Sema Hernandez, and then we have
I love Sema.
I don't know if I love Sema. She's wonderful. She's like a sister to me, and I love her dearly, awesome. And I wholeheartedly support and endorse her campaign. And she is doing absolutely the right thing, and she's doing it despite being basically blackballed and told you're not good enough. It's like, well, when is she going to be good enough for you? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's the sad part about it. So go on.
Have your campaigns campaigned together at all yet or anything? Just out of
We
curiosity.
have not. We have not. I have plans. I'm hoping that I will have resources. I messed my beret up. Hold on. I'm hoping I will have resources to. I watched it the other day, and I'm pretty sure it's like kind of lopsided since I watched it. But I'm hoping her primary is in March. I believe it's March 9th. I could be mistaken on that. I'm sure you can link that too. But her primary is in March, and so I'm hoping that I can get out there in January. I go out and see, I lived in San Antonio for 5 years, so I know plenty of people in San Antonio. I know plenty of people. So I'm hoping I'm able to go out there. I am endorsing her. I usually don't endorse Democrats. Sorry, friends. I usually don't endorse Democrats because I'm an independent. And I don't believe the Democratic Party. I know a lot of people are Dementer, or they believe the Democratic Party is fixable, and I don't. I believe it needs to be burned to the ground and start over with something else. Whether it's the People's Party, I've talked with, I can't remember his name
I
offhand,
love the People's
but
Party.
yeah, I love the
Yeah.
People's Party. I think that's a great idea. I think that, definitely whatever the party becomes, I propose the us party, meaning like, I forget what I had unity is strength, right? Because we have to remember they want to keep us divided. And by they, I mean the elites. They want to keep us fighting about whether or not someone's black or white, whether or not someone's gay or straight, because the longer we fight about those things, the less that we notice they're taking all of the resources, all of the wealth, and redistributing it to the top.
Yep.
It's like reverse trickle down, like
And
use
taking
Hillary's
away our
words.
rights, our voting rights, and our ability to stop it. So by the time we realize that, it will have literally been too late. I think that was always their plan, and we're close to that. And luckily, people are waking up, but hopefully it's soon
Yes,
enough.
amen. Yes, people are waking up to that, and we're starting to be like, wait a minute. And we've seen that clear rebuke in a lot of good ways, right? We've seen that clear rebuke. And I'm not saying the Democrats are, like all bad. I think there are some wonderful Democrats around the country. I'm a fan of AOC. Do I have my issues with her? Yes, I have my issues with some of the things she said. Would I consider myself further to the left than her or more progressive? Yes, I would. I would consider myself much more further left than her. I think AOC is like center left, right? I'm like left, like sees the means left.
I can understand
That's
that.
just
I'm
me.
pretty far left as well, and I think it's hilarious when people try to call Bernie Sanders a communist
Oh
or
God, yes.
even really a full-on socialist. We don't have a politician in our government anywhere in America right now that is true left. They are all at the best center left. And it's even more hilarious when people try to say Elizabeth Warren is far left. She is like a conservative, like she's literally just center. It's just by
Yes.
acknowledging that things need to change. How does that make her left? That does not make her left. There used to be conservatives all the time that would introduce the same types of policies she wants, which are small
And
change
that's the
policies.
saddest part about the Republican Party. And trust me, I've been tempted to join the Republicans as if only to be the voice that says, what are y'all doing? Like, return to the party
Right.
of your roots. Return to the party of Dwight Eisenhower, of Teddy Roosevelt, of Abraham Lincoln. I'm not trying to say that the Republicans are, I haven't. I'm an independent, right? But I mean, what I'm saying is both parties do not have the answer. And the longer that we
Yeah.
pretend like they do, the less time that we have to wake up to the realization that we're getting fucked.
Exactly.
And that's really what it comes down to.
And there was a couple of things I wanted to respond to really quick too. First of all, I do think it's awesome actually that you are running as an independent. I've looked around a few times before and I've thought about running, and I could only do it as an independent, and that's actually why I haven't done it, because I don't have the resources or the network or any of that to be successful as an independent. But I couldn't run in either party. I agree with everything you just said about both parties, and actually the Democratic Party, I think a lot of people only think they can reform it because they don't know the actual history, because the Democratic Party has a history of throwing progressives out of their base all the time. People who think the
Well,
Democratic
I have
Party
a
can
funny
be
story. I can tell you the
reformed.
story of.
Just one second, I promise. Must not
Sorry.
know about. It's okay. Must not know about Democrats for Nixon, for instance. When McGovern became the Democratic nominee, a bunch of Democrats voted for Nixon because they didn't want to vote for a progressive Democrat, which is insane. My take on it though is that we have to at least get enough progressive Democrats in there to reform our electoral politics enough to where we have automatic third-party ballots or some way to make third parties equal with the other two parties. Otherwise, I don't think we'll ever have a viable third party in America, unfortunately. I mean, look at the Green Party,
I can tell you, I like what Maine's doing with ranked choice voting. And now more states are looking at, hey, maybe that's something we can do. I think that's a wonderful idea. I mean, if you, the one that I saw, I think was Maine CD3, I want to say it was, or maybe CD1. But it was the Democrat lost technically to the Republican, right? Because there was an independent and a libertarian. And so the second choice for most independents was the Democrat, right? And so when they retallied it, the Democrat won. And so I thought that was, good. I was like, look, that's the way it should be. The second choice of most of the people was not the Republican. He was their last choice, right? And so, we don't want to end up in a system where we have the last choice of most voters winning because of the letters that they have next to their name. But to your other point, though, I think that I can tell you the story of when I ran for Congress, because I didn't just decide to run for the Senate, right? I ran for Congress first. And so we can go into that, and I'll tell you what that was like for me. I was ostracized from Democratic events. I was not invited to debates. I was basically told, and then it was turned around on me and made to be out that I didn't want to attend the debates. And which was to my campaign and I, it was insulting because we had emails, we had proof. So we're like,
right.
We're trying to turn this around on us and make it seem like we didn't want to speak to our constituents. And to be quite honest, we didn't qualify for the ballot, and I put that solely on the shoulders of the Tulare County Democratic Party, the Tulare County, the Fresno County Democratic Party, the Tulare Democratic Club, Fresno Club, Visalia Club, all the clubs, I put it on them because you didn't want us to be a part of the conversation because you thought I was just some young black kid, and really what it was is that I was more progressive than all the candidate. That's really what it came down to. And they would rather, I mean, I don't know how many times Jimmy Dore has said this, but they would rather lose with a conservative Democrat or moderate Democrat, middle of the road centrist, than win with a progressive every time. They would rather lose than win. They're paid opposition, in my opinion.
Yeah, they're paid pretend opposition, and really both parties at this point, the only thing they have to point to as a reason to vote for them is the other party. If you're a Republican and you're running against a Democrat, the only way you bring out your base is by saying, look at that Democrat over there, you don't want him there. And then the Democrats do the same thing with the Republicans, but neither of them are actually trying to change or do anything. All they're ever trying to do is protect the already powerful and the wealthy, and maybe make them even more powerful and wealthy. And that's it.
I think that AOC has changed the calculus on that. I will say that. Say what you want about her. I mean, she supported that. She changed the calculus, at least for the Democrats, and I think for the Republicans, right? Because now she's inserted herself in a way that I think I personally am a fan of. I would have gone farther than she had. I would have not backed Speaker Pelosi. I would have been like, look, I'm not voting for Speaker Pelosi, period. And I would have voted for someone like Barbara Lee. And I wouldn't have made that negotiable. And I would have been like, what are you going to do? What are you going to fucking do? What are you going to do? Not put me on a committee? What are you going to do? Not go ahead. Good luck with that. Let me know how that turns out. I mean, I think she failed in the sense of utilizing her power. I'm real big on power theory, and I'm real big on like ways to utilize power, both soft and hard power. How to utilize those things. And I've studied international politics. I've studied Nietzsche. I've studied, you name it. I've probably read it. The Prince, Machiavelli. I've studied a lot of different power theories. And if I were AOC, personally, I would have said, you know what? Sorry, Nancy, but you're fired. Sorry. And I would have said, do what you want. Do as you will and see what happens. And I would have, and if they didn't put me on a committee, I would have spent time raising up Democratic challengers all over the country or independent challengers to fucking take over. And that's her mistake. And I'm not blaming her. She's only one woman, right? She's only one woman. I can't blame her for that. But that's what I would have done. And that's what I plan on doing if I become a senator. That's what I plan on doing. Chuck Schumer, I'm sorry, I'm not voting for you for majority leader. Or you, Mitch, for majority leader, whoever. I'm not voting for either one of you. Fucking deal with it.
Right, because what is the point of, we can send as many progressives as we want to the House and to the Senate, but at some point we have to have different leadership as well. Otherwise, literally nothing changes. Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer both govern like soft Republicans, and that's just a fact at this point.
Right.
Yeah, so
Facts.
John doesn't have an official campaign website. I'm sure he'll let us know when it's up, and I will get that out to you guys. But because of that, I thought we could spend a little bit of time just going through some policies. So, like, what are some policies your campaign is specifically campaigning on right now?
Yeah, definitely. And we do have a Facebook. We're not launching our website until January out of respect for the 2020 candidates, because I know plenty of great 2020 candidates, Sema Hernandez, Rebecca Parsons, Michaela Wilkes, I think.
Yes, I
Or
love
Wilkerson.
Michaela.
I love Michaela. Michaela's my sister. I love Michaela. I'm here for Michaela. And she's challenging Steny Hoyer, which I'm like, yes,
and she got
yes, girl, take him out, take his ass.
Yes, we need Steny gone. He's the second, I believe, behind Pelosi, right?
Yes,
yeah, and she was endorsed by brand new Congress.
Hoyer is going to try to ascend the ladder, right? Yeah, no.
Right.
So specific policies that we are advocating for, I think personally the biggest one is we need a constitutional convention. If you read the Constitution, which I am 95% sure that most people in the government have not done, there are specific ways to modify the Constitution or to amend the Constitution. And by my count, our campaign, we have 10 constitutional amendments that are needed right now. End money in politics. Corporations are not people.
Yes.
I'm sorry, they're not. For the purposes of election, they are not. Laws or whatever, they're considered people. That's fine. But for the purposes of federal governance and campaign and elections, they are not people. Period. We need, I think, personally, I believe in full public financing. I believe that the election season needs to be shortened. I think that you should only have a calendar year at most to say I'm the reason why you should vote for me, and I don't think campaign ads should be run before that or before that. I think France does a great job of that, and look at how their elections turned out. I'm not saying I like Macron, I don't, but I'm saying that they have very strict laws, and it's a pretty hefty fine. I think it's like 10,000 euros or something for every time.
Oh wow!
An ad is run on any channel. So we're talking significant fines. I think public financing is the way to go. I think grassroots, public finance campaigns, period. You don't get to use. I do believe that, PACs could maybe spend money, but I think most people are moving towards the not taking PAC money. Like our campaign is not taking corporate PAC money. Our campaign is not taking money from billionaires. Our campaign is not taking money from corporations at all, and so, or lobbyists. And so I think I think the biggest thing that needs to happen first is there needs to be a constitutional convention. There needs to be several amendments that need to be made now. I would love to see the ERA make a comeback. I would love to see the Equal Rights Amendment make a comeback, where we have in the Constitution, enshrined in the Constitution, the government cannot discriminate based on, because it's not a federal law. We cannot discriminate based on sex, gender, sexual orientation, blah, 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 blah. All of the list, the list I'm talking about. I would love to see that enshrined in our Constitution. I would love to see lots of different things, right? That's the first step. And I think if we phrase it in a certain way, in a particular way, and we word it, and we see some advocacy is what I'm looking for. Someone that's going to go and talk to Republicans and say, look, dude, this is the right thing to do. I speak their language. I'm fortunate enough to have grown up around Republicans my whole life. I'm a Bible thumping Christian, but I'm the right kind of Christian, right? I'm the one that's like, that's not what Jesus said. That ain't what Jesus said.
Right.
And so I speak their language. I'm fortunate enough and blessed enough to be able to speak their language and tell them that's not what Jesus said. You're doing exactly the opposite of what Jesus said, and you're trying to use other people's words to justify getting out of it, and not so much shaming them as saying, really? Is that really where you want to go from here? Is that really the choice you want to make? Because what we have to understand about evangelical voters is they believe in God. They believe in the
Yeah.
wrong one, the wrong version of him, but they believe in God. They know God's real. That's a good step for me. You can be swayed as far as I'm concerned. And I think it's going to take someone to say, to cross that aisle, to go and talk to evangelicals and be like, you're in direct violation of what Jesus said. And what did Jesus say was going to happen to you? Have you thought about your soul, so to speak? And I'm not trying to get preachy or anything, but to me, it's a very real thing too. And so for me, feeding the poor is important. For me, Medicare for all is important. Those are not negotiable things in my book. Those are what Jesus told me to do. And so we have to remind those people, you have a clear choice. Do you love money or do you love God? Those are the two choices. And I know that's not going to resonate with some on the left.
Yes.
I understand that's not going to resonate with some on the left. But we need someone who's going to speak to the other people and say those things, which is why I really admired that Bernie Sanders went on Fox News and that he did that town hall, because he understands, look, we got to speak to them. We have to talk to them. It's not enough to call them deplorable, to call them trumpets and all that shit. That's not enough. We have to
That
talk
keeps
to
us
them and
divided.
say, hey, look, right, we're all in this
Yes.
together. We are all in this together. The planet is dying. Even if what I think and believe in my spirit and my heart is wrong, then guess how much time we have left? We have to
Right.
come together. It's not an option. It's not optional in my book. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, it does. And I love the message of solidarity that's been growing in Bernie Sanders' speeches and in the campaign overall as well, because it's absolutely true. I would love it even if we got to a place where we could just forget parties altogether, but that's not, the easiest thing to do right now. But we do have to be comfortable reaching across the aisle, though, and talking to people we wouldn't necessarily talk to all the time. I definitely 100% agree with that. That is the only way things will change. I'm always surprised we don't see young Republican reformers running and things like that. You don't really hear
I
about
hope
it.
so. I hope so. I really hope so. I want to see, and that's why, that's why I considered running as a Republican, to be a true compassionate conservative, in the words of George Bush, right? To
You're
really
right.
say, look, what are we doing, right? What are we doing to people? I know we're going to talk a little bit about it, but I spent time being homeless. It was homeless by
Actually,
choice.
yeah, just talk
But
about that right now.
I
Yeah.
spent time being homeless. I was homeless by choice. I was investigating. I also, in addition to running for office and to running a nonprofit, I'm a former teacher, right? And so I had to stop teaching basically due to medical issues. And so I spent some time being homeless. I was investigating another story. I co-founded a group called Operation Mending Hearts. So the two groups I have, again, are at TV for TB Inc. That's Tango Victory, Tango Victory, India, November, Charlie. Sorry, I'm blanked there for a second. And then we have Operation Mending Hearts. That one should be pretty easy to spell. And we, really focused on exposing a story. And while I was exposing the story, and I'm sure you can probably link that too for us, the story I was exposing, it was huge. And I had to be homeless to kind of get the impression to people that I was harmless, right? But I spent 3 months on the streets. I have scars on my chest from the time that times I was burned by people with crack pipes.
Oh, wow.
I have scars on my chest. I took a picture earlier because there's a narrative going around that I'm lying about what I experienced, and I have the scars to prove it. And so, for me, it was a very real, terrible experience. I would never wish on another human being. I don't care if they are anti me in any way. I would never wish somebody to go through that. I want someone to. It would be nice if someone came forward on the Republican side, to your original point, but to the point of being homeless, it is not fun. It is not something I chose originally. It was simply circumstance at first, but then I believe in God, right? So I believe in doing what he tells me to do. And so at first it was by circumstance, and at any point in time I could have walked away and came to where I'm at now. I'm in a safe home now, so nobody panic. I don't have there's no lack of resources. There's no, I'm doing just fine. I'm happy and healthy, and but I had to really walk some dark paths, and I wouldn't want anyone to have to do that. I wouldn't want anyone to have to do that, whether by their choice or not by their choice. I had a constituent the other day who told me, well, what about if they're doing drugs? Then they deserve to be homeless. And I looked at them and I said, I I honestly believe that everyone does some drug or another, whether it's nicotine, whether it's oxycodone, whether it's caffeine, whether it's that sugar, whether
Sugar.
it's
Yes, I'm
weed.
glad you
We
said
all have
caffeine and
some sort
sugar.
of drug that we do. Let's stop pretending that your drug is not as bad as theirs. Okay.
Yeah,
And they looked at me and they go, I never thought of it that way. And I said, that's why I'm here.
that's awesome.
To make you think about things differently. It feed people unless they're drug addicts, then you can go ahead and not give them food. He didn't say give them water if they're thirsty, unless they're drug addicts. Then don't give them anything. They
Yeah.
deserve it. That's not what Jesus told me. And so, I give people, I try to give as much as I can. I don't want to tell, what I've done specifically because Jesus also said not to let the left hand know what the right hand's doing. When you give freely and without reservation, and you don't talk about it, because that's not what the purpose is, right? I give knowing God's going to get me back. I give true compassionate values on both sides of compassion for humanity. And that's what Jesus
Yeah.
taught me. And I know that a lot of people try to say that, oh, it's about humanity, not about God. And I'm like, well, for me, it is about humanity because God made it about humanity for me. Does that make sense?
Yes, and I fully believe we all do so much better when we are working together and understand the needs and goals of our neighbor just as much as our own, and vice versa with our
Sorry,
neighbor
Laura, I had to
towards
take my hat
us.
off.
It's all good. That kind of a movement, though, if you think about it, even politically, if you don't want to get into the emotional side of it or the spiritual side of it that John's bringing up, which I do also have that background. I grew up Christian. I don't consider myself a Christian anymore. I don't have anything against it, but I'm just more of kind of a new age spiritual type person as far as my actual beliefs. But even if you don't want
I
to look
can't
at it
blame you
from
for
that
that.
angle.
Christians have done a bad job at being Christians in the first place. So I don't blame you for that, by the way. We've done a terrible job of being good
Right.
Christians. But go on, please.
Oh, it's fine. It's fine. I was just going to say, even just from a strictly earthly, I guess I'll say, standpoint, that's a winning strategy and an almost impossible one to undermine. If everyone in this movement really understands what the other person needs and is willing to fight as hard as they can for that person as they would for themselves, if we can have even one full generation of that in America, we would completely transform this country. And there are so many opportunities in America.
It almost sounds like you just quoted Jesus, actually, if I'm not mistaken, because Jesus said, love one another the way I have loved you, right?
Yeah,
And Jesus
he did.
or love one another as you love yourself, right? We've distorted it in our society to the golden rule. Treat other people how you want to be treated. That's not what Jesus said.
Right.
He said treat other people how you treat yourself. Those are two different things.
Very different.
Yeah, you're right. I started TV for TV Inc. And eventually I'm hoping in December in our meeting, Operation Heartmender is going to be folded into a club of TV for TV Inc. And we're going to start in the schools, right? We're going to start with the children. We're going to start teaching children how should we treat one another? Should we talk bad about one another? Should we in fact our chief development officer just sent me this morning his outline for what he thinks is the best way to go about it. And we're talking about be kind to one another. We're talking about basic shit that people
Right.
we're told that, but at some point we lose it along the way, right? And we're starting this club in elementary, middle school, and high school. So we're talking about you're going to have 18 years of the opportunity to learn how to be a better human being. And God's
Oh,
not going to
wow.
be a part of the picture. I know some people are going to pop off and be like, oh my God, they're going to indoctrinate the children with Christian. No, 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 no. We are going to indoctrinate our children with compassion and mercy and grace and feeling like my neighbor is my brother and I have to take care of them. And if you want to chalk that up to Christian values, you can, because it is, but we're not going to put it from that perspective. We're going to present it from a secular perspective.
That's amazing. That would be transformative for your community, I'm sure. Yeah, just I don't think that's ever there's a lot of people who grew up without ever even hearing that message of really fighting for other people as much as they fight for themselves. We grow up just thinking, all you have time for and all you're able to do in this world is fight for yourself, and maybe if you're lucky, your closest family, and that's all you should ever worry about. And that's so detrimental.
My uncle, or I should say my former uncle, because I've disowned him. When I came to him for help, right? I used to go over to his house, and my tia, right? Because my family's very diverse, right? Tia means aunt in Spanish. I speak Spanish almost fluently, and I have plenty of Mexican family through marriage. And so my Theo told me, you got to take care of yourself right now. You got to take care of yourself right now. And this is in the middle of me investigating a pedophile ring and exposing pedophiles that are harming children. I mean, we're seeing the unfolding of events as far as pedophiles go with Jeffrey Epstein. We are seeing the unfolding, and
Yep.
that story is not going to go away. We're not letting Jeff Epstein pretend that we're not pretending he's dead like you guys want us to, right? I mean, I've seen many memes. My co-founder at quite a lot of them, Danielle St. John, at Birdie's Voice on Twitter, has made quite a lot of memes of, funny little memes. Like she did a Dr. Seuss one that was like, if people like you don't care a whole lot, then people will think Epstein's dead, but he's not. And it was hilarious because that's and it's like, come on, people, we got to wake up. And so, yeah, I mean, to go to your earlier point, at the end of the day, we do really have to start looking at it that no, I don't care for myself. If other people, then I know that other people will care for me. And that's hard. It's hard to let go of the need for control and the need for I've got to do this or it's not going to get done. I know. Trust me, I know.
True.
I didn't become a Christian overnight. I became a Christian after 25 years. 25 years. Some people would consider me a new Christian. No, for 6 years I have fought day after day against people that I'm like, you're a Christian? No, you're not, because it says right here you ain't supposed to do that, right? You're not supposed to do that. It says it right there. I fought against Pharisees, as we would call them, right? Pharisees, people that try to distort what the word says to fit their own narrative, and false prophets who divert from the word. But to me, the words are in red and white, not black and white, because the words of Jesus are written in red, right? In the Bible, they're red and white. It's a very much, this is what you need to do. This is what you don't need to do. And whether Jesus is real or not is besides the point. I think it's a pretty good outline for how we should treat one another in general. And that's my opinion. But, love one another. That's pretty simple. It's not that hard. It's about whether or not we want to. And that is what the battle
Yes.
is.
It's about whether or not we want to. And you also touched on such an interesting aspect, too, that people do have to get over that initial fear. And it is hard to even let that go. Because if you are going to be spending time helping someone else, you do have to trust that if you need something, someone will be there for you, too. You have to trust that you don't have to necessarily mass all these things just for your own safety, because your community will help you just as you're helping them. But I think once you see it work, though, it is easy to get over because it does start to work. I think people feel something, a certain something that's hard to put a word on when they can tell that there's others around them that they're working with and that are working with them. And it's this security, it's an amazing feeling, and it's almost addictive, really. So
It
they
really
keep
is.
doing
I
it.
mean,
Yeah.
it really is. And that's the thing about it is my sister, one of my sisters, I have many brothers and sisters, right? But one of my sisters told me when I was going through this situation, and I'll be full disclosure, I battle multiple mental diagnoses, right? I have bipolar disorder, I have anxiety, unspecified anxiety, meaning they don't know where it's triggered by. I have major depressive disorder, and so this last few months for me was a huge trial because I was in a very depressing situation for 3 months, knowing that I was working towards a goal, and now I've been immediately remanded into basically safety. All the things that I was denied for 3 months, I've gotten them all at once, and so
Mhm.
one of my sisters and my mother and I were talking, and it was like I have a house, I have washing machine, I have a dryer, I have a shower, I have a safe bed to sleep at night, my dog is comfortable. All of these things that were not there are there now, and so I've been kind of manic lately, right? Because I'm bipolar, and so For those who are not aware, bipolar means you fluctuate between two poles, depressive, or well, I guess we'll say depressive down here, and manic. So highs and lows, right? And I've been really manic lately, like functioning on very little sleep, having to force myself to sleep at least 5 hours a night, working towards, a healthy 7 hours, but slowly. And my sister pointed out to me, that I did all of this on the idea that it was going to work out, right? That it was going to be, that it's going to work out, and that I didn't do this for nothing. And I know that I'm going to come back on your show, and I'll come back anytime, even when I'm a senator. Anytime you want to have me on your show, you let me know, and I will gladly make time for you, because again, what I said earlier is very true. People like you, like Niall Elcom, like all of the progressive journalists, Tina Desiree Berg, Fiorella Isabel, Combo Couch, all of those people, you guys are doing such good work on making sure that we have a place to come where we can have a conversation like this. Because I might never be on CNN unless I get past the primary and I'm Kamala's opponent, right? And
Right,
then
right.
they'll have me on. Right, but they're not going to have me on it before then, because they're not going to waste time, because Orange Man bad, and
Right.
Democrats are good, and so on, right? And so thank you again. I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say is thank you again for like taking the time to make sure that we're able to have conversations like this and ask these deep questions and really dive into the meat of the matter, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. A philosopher of our times that I really put a lot of stock in, said something recently that I try to live by, and it's part of why I started my channel. And now is the perfect time to be raising the overall consciousness of humanity as a whole. We've got a lot of comforts in our life. We've got a lot of struggle and suffering as well. But if you think about it as far as like the overall way that people live, even the wage earner, at some point comes home to well, most of the time comes home to a place to live anyway. We know homelessness is a rising problem in America. But regardless, overall, there's a lot of comforts in humanity. And this is the perfect time to actually raise our consciousness. And so that's what I hope to achieve with a lot of these things. We're getting close to an hour, though. So I was hoping right before I let you go, maybe we could do like a policy lightning round really quick. I'll just name like a progressive policy, and you can let us know if you support it or would support it. All right. So single payer, specifically Medicare for all.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I knew.
100% support. I don't care if you want to keep your private insurance. Fuck your private insurance. And just, I know it's a lightning round, but I thought the best thing that someone said about this was, we have to put the rich people in the same category with us, because they will make sure that the standard of care is raised. And so absolutely 100% support without a doubt. Yes.
I agree. I agree with that. That's the only reason you could even want a two-tiered system. Why would you have private insurance if Medicare for all already covers everything? I guess if you want to spend more money on top of it for some reason, but that's neither here nor there.
Well, it's because they want to be able to say, I'm separate. I live in a gated community. I drive a Mercedes. Thanks. Equalizing us is not in their best interest. I went to Harvard. Equalizing us is not in their best interest. And so, no, I do not support you keeping your private insurance. And I honestly don't give a fuck whether or not you want your private insurance. You need to be put in the same pool with everyone else. This is America. Everyone's equal, aren't we? Or you guys always say that we're equal. So why is there healthcare insurance? Why do you want different healthcare insurance? Your healthcare insurance should be equal too.
100%. And abolishing ICE.
I do support abolishing ICE, and I definitely support instituting a different department in the place of ICE. ICE has a very bad reputation. They have done some very harmful things, especially to the people in my community in Tulare County. We had orchards that froze over because there was no one there to pick the fruit. That equaled millions of dollars. I mean, money aside, that equaled millions of dollars of loss of sales of the fruit. And I'm a person, look, I was raised, you don't have fruit food sitting there over while we have homeless people on the streets was, to me, ethically and morally unacceptable. And so, yes, I do support abolishing ICE. Do I think there needs to be some sort of immigration task force? Yes. Do I think they should have unlimited, unchecked power to do what they want with people? No. And so I think there is a needle that can be threaded there. But I do support a broader expansion of immigration, if that's the real question here. I do support a broader expansion of immigration. I personally think all H-1B visa holders in the United States, people that have been here, we have a lot of them in my county, meaning people that came here for seasonal farm work. I think after they have served a couple of seasons, they should automatically be granted citizenship if they want it, period. I think that a lot of people, if they've been here for 10 years or longer, if they have family or they have existing business ties of some sort, they should automatically be granted citizenship. I think there is, again, a needle that can be threaded. But yes, I do support abolishing ICE. Yes, absolutely.
So then if there were an immigration task force, it sounds like you are very much for, like you said, expanding our current pathway to citizenship, I guess we could call it. You know, if people are here and they're contributing to the economy, they should, probably end up becoming citizens anyway, without having to go through a rigorous process. So if there was an immigration task force, it would probably just exist in your mind then to, I guess, remove people who are truly undocumented, or what would that look like a little bit?
So in my mind, I don't even think we would need to establish an immigration task force. I think we should provide more resources to our local sheriff's departments. I can tell you that I've done ride-alongs with many local law enforcement officers. I've done ride-along. Shout out to Clovis PD. Shout out to Tulare PD. Shout out to Tulare County Sheriff's Office. I'm friends with Mike Bordeaux, who is a wonderful sheriff, wonderful man, and who is truly not a racist. I want to help ICE because these illegals are so bad. But I'll tell you a quick story. I did a ride along with the sheriff, and he told me something. We have these people in California. You will find them if you drive in country roads, because they are not regulated there, but they are normally found on country roads, and they have these rainbow colored umbrellas, and they normally sell things like fruit or tamales, or which, for those who don't know, is a Mexican dish that's a staple, a Mexican staple. It's a dish. If you've never had a tamale, then I don't know what to tell you. You need to go get one right now.
I do know what a tamale is. Hopefully
right
everybody watching
does.
This
video and go get a fucking tamale right now. A good one, a homemade one, not a fake one, but a homemade one. But I'm not this way. But he told me, the sheriff that I did the ride along with, he said, he pointed them out and he said, do you know that every single one of those people is most likely undocumented? Every single one of those people is most likely treated basically like a slave. They are dropped off here at 7 o'clock in the morning. They are picked up when the sun goes down. They are taken to some sort of compound. And he wasn't talking out the side of his neck. He was like, they are dropped off in the morning. We've watched them. They're dropped off in the morning at 7 o'clock. They're here until 9 o'clock at night, and they come and get picked up. And they're taken back to a compound, and they're basically slaves. And he was like, and I know that he knew I was pro-immigration. And so he goes, I know you're pro-immigration, but I want you to understand that for every one of those that you see, there's another one who's being forced to sleep with someone. Every one of those people you see on the corner, there's, another one that's being forced to have sex with someone they don't want to have sex with. And it really put into my mind the idea of, wow, this is a huge issue that both parties have neglected their constitutional duty and obligation to address. And credit to George Bush, he tried. Credit to George Bush, he did try that. He tried. He wanted immigration to be something that was handled. So did Obama. But it wasn't, right? And so because of partisan gridlock, yada, yada. But the point is, what would I like the immigration task force to look like? I don't think there needs to be one. What I would like to see is more resources given to local sheriff's departments so that they can handle the people who are leading this sort of operation and rescue the people who are being held captive and then get them to the right place where they can file. I think that is the American way, in my opinion. That is the right thing to do, in my opinion. The Statue of Liberty, if I'm not mistaken, it still says, it might not anymore. I heard there were some rumors about it being changed, but it says, give me you're tired, you're weary. Give me the people that are your poor huddled masses, right? I can't think of a more poor, more huddled mass than the people who are kept here in slavery, modern day slavery against their will, and they are demonized by our president, by a lot of people in general. I can't think of anyone poorer than that, and more huddled, and more starving, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I am glad that I asked you that clarifier, even though it was supposed to be a lightning round, but it's all good because I agree with that. That's
Sorry.
actually where it's all good.
We
That's
can
where I
take as
would
long
like
as
to
you need
go
right now, by the way. I
as
don't have
well.
anything on my calendar for the next 45 minutes, or hour actually. So we can take longer if you need. You want to get your lightning round out,
I
get your
do got
lightning
to
round
jump
out.
to another video actually.
Okay.
um, but yeah, that's what I would like to see as well, though. ICE is literally the marriage of overpowered government oversight, big government oversight, and over government overspending. Because we already have our sheriff's departments, our police departments, and our border security. If anything, fund all those things more, change the rules there more. If you want, I don't specifically find immigration to be a problem. I actually think it's a made up issue. But
Yeah, I do
that's
too.
that's a
It
different
is.
conversation.
It
But
is. Yeah, it is.
so, what about rolling back the surveillance state and then, also looking into abolishing DHS then?
I think VPN shielding should be something that is mandatorily free. I think Apple should be forced to develop a VPN software, as should Android. And I know VPN is not perfect, but I think it's a good start. I do not support facial recognition. In fact, I
Mhm.
posted that I support Bernie Sanders' call for facial recognition software to be banned for use by police. I don't think your face should be taken at Walmart. I went to Walmart the other day and was doing self checkout out and my picture popped up. I was like, what the fuck?
I can't
I'm like,
stand it.
where's the notice on the door saying, warning, if you enter the store, your face will be captured via our registers, our self. There is none.
Yep.
And I think that that's extreme oversight by our government. I mean, extreme undersight, excuse me. I don't give consent for Walmart to take my facial picture. And I don't think they should be allowed to do that. I think that that's
That's
something that is not within the scope of their authority as a private company. And that is within the scope of the government's ability to regulate. I
yeah.
don't support government being able to basically, for instance, when the criminal, the mass shooter who had his iPhone, when they wanted to hack the iPhone, I absolutely supported Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple, saying, no, we're not going to help you hack our iPhone. We developed the technology because we wanted to protect our users. I
Right.
thought that was a good step. I thought that was the right call, and I applaud him for making that call. But as far as the surveillance of police state, I'm really big on criminal justice reform. I'm actually authoring a bill. It's known as ARCJA, right? So ARCJA, ARCJA. It's the Aldermen Ramirez Criminal Justice Act. And so my cousin Jorge Ramirez was shot by police officers by Bakersfield PD, shot and killed, unarmed Hispanic male, shot and killed, left behind I believe it is, three children, including a toddler. We're talking about children whose lives have been forever impacted. My primas, my cousins, right? Their lives have been forever impacted. My tia, my tío are never going to be the same. So if by surveillance state you also mean police reform, police brutality, police, I definitely believe in that, and I've taken their opinions into consideration as well. I told you I did ride-alongs with them, and I've taken their opinions, and I know I'll never forget, and I'll leave on this. Clovis PD, I asked him, I said, what do you think about body cams? Because they have body cams. And I noticed some of the departments don't. And I said, what do you think about mandatory body cams for all officers? And he said, honestly, I like that I have a body cam. You know why? If I have to shoot somebody, which is the last, Clovis PD, by the way, is a phenomenal police department, phenomenal, awesome police department. Their approach to policing is customer service. Their approach
And
is,
that's how
we're
it
here to
should be.
help you. We're here to help you. We're not here to hurt you. And that is demonstrated by the fact that I did ride-alongs with some of the officers, and their gun is right at their hip. I did ride-alongs with Clovis PD. Their gun is almost behind the back of their thigh. So they have to actively reach back around their back to pull out their gun. And the impression that I got personally was, I can talk to you. And I didn't even notice he had a gun. At first, I was like, is he really going to go on patrol without a gun? And I asked him, and he goes, it's right here. And he turned around, and I go, oh my God, okay. And he goes, we don't carry our guns on our sides because we don't want to give the impression of we're here to fucking shoot somebody. We want to give the impression of we're here to help you. If we need to shoot, we can, but we don't want to do that. And
Right.
to me, that's a huge psychological factor. That's a huge game changer in terms of psychology, because if you're approaching me with a gun on your hip, I'm going to step back and say, okay, let me not move too quickly. Let me not reach into my pockets. Let me not do this. Let me not do that. Whereas if it's behind your back, I'm not focused on your gun. I'm focused on interacting with you and telling you the truth. And that's exemplified by Clovis PD has not had an unarmed civilian be shot in over 2 years. I could be wrong, but check the record. I could be wrong. They have not had an unarmed civilian be shot in 2 years. And so
Awesome.
if the broader question is, do I support police reform? Yeah, absolutely. I'm 27. I think it is 27 times more likely to be shot than you are, period. That's just a fact. In any place in America, you can put me anywhere in America. Both of us, we could be committing the same crime or not committing a crime. I am 27 more times likely to be shot than you are. And that's just the facts. And to me, that's not acceptable. That's not acceptable. Because I have more skin pigmentation than you do? No, that's not acceptable. And thankfully, we have a crop of candidates who are on the same page about that. I've talked with Michaela Wilkes. I've talked with Sema Hernandez. They're on the same page. I'm not going to say that they would support my bill if it's introduced or when it's introduced. And I've actually called on Kamala Harris to introduce my bill. When I'm finished, I'm like, look, I don't even want this for me because I'm going to be a senator. I want you to do this now because people like me and like you are dying right now.
Right.
So if you watch this video, tweet her. Tell her about ARCJA, #ARCJA. Tell her we're working on the bill. We'll hand it to you. I'll give it to your office and you can introduce it. That's what she should be doing. She's a former prosecutor. She worked closely with police for several years. And she was the attorney general. So she worked for decades with the police officers. She should be introducing something like that, I think, right?
Absolutely.
But she wants to
Absolutely.
be president. So, wah, wah, wah.
And unfortunately, she wants to do it, through the establishment means, and that's how she's always been an establishment person in every office she's held, which is kind of startling to see from her side. But
And she
all
could
right,
have really taken attack. And I remember, not to interrupt you, but I remember an article coming out about her as her being possibly a progressive prosecutor to really make some
yes,
change. She chose the path of, not only am I going to do what was already done, but I'm going to take punitive action against
more
people who
punitive.
don't take
Yep.
punitive action to correct their behaviors.
Yeah, like like the whole what was it? Her
Locking up
what?
teachers for truancy,
The
locking up people
truancy.
for
That's the
weed.
word I
I
was
mean, which
looking
one?
for.
The
Yep.
whole which one?
But that was parents, not teachers. But yeah, it's still startling. How does that help at all? First of all, you're talking about an obviously troubled child if they're not going to school regularly, and then you put their parents in jail. So then what happens to the kid? Now they're in the system for a time or what? I really didn't understand. That was startling. That's
There
crazy.
was no logic behind it at all. And that's
No.
what Kamala Harris, someone told me a long time ago, some jobs require a hammer, meaning some jobs require force. Some jobs require scalpel, meaning you have to excise certain parts of something, right? You have to sculpt and be very careful. And some jobs don't require any hand at all. And Kamala Harris, in everything she ever undertook as prosecutor, as
There's a hammer.
DA, as attorney general, she used a hammer every time. Every time.
Yeah. Well, thank you again for joining us, John Michael. I look forward to
Yes.
talking to you again sometime.
Yeah, maybe in January when our campaign site is up. For now, people can follow me on Twitter at JM for California, on Instagram at JM for California. And that's FOR, not the number 4. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/JM for California. And hopefully in January, I can come back with you and we can discuss more of hopefully by then things will have panned out a little bit more too on the other topics you and I have discussed privately.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right. Well, take care of yourself.
Thank you. Thank you.